I want to recognize the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Telecoms, Ms. Pat Francis, and Mr. Cynthia Pringle, and the representatives here from the Ministry of Education. The ministry has different components, different departments, the Youth Department, and the Institute of Continuing Education, ABIS. So here we are at another activity, and today I asked my staff to relocate this particular activity to this room because I wanted to be able to share with you a couple of important matters that have occupied our attention at the Ministry of Telecommunications within the last 24 months. One of these matters has been the HEART project. This is a $9 million collaboration between Lime and the government of Antigua and Barbuda that sees two very important things happening. The first is Lime will commercially propel a 4G HSPA Plus network, as you heard Kevin Joseph say a moment ago. That was launched last week. And by October of this year, Lime will light up its 4G LTE network. And his description is very apt. It's the Porsche version of the 4G, super fast. And I'm hoping a bit later on we can share with you a very short video clip. I want to spend time today talking about two very important things. One is some of the components of HEART. And maybe I want to say that today might be an opportunity for those of you that are here today and those that are listening to examine where we were, where we are, and where we're trying to get to. So where we were a few years ago was just not enough, and it wasn't adequate. Internet penetration in 2004 was approximately 8%, and I recall going to the Potters Primary School, and I was shown a room, Mrs. Pringle, that was ostensibly the home economics room. And frankly speaking, no reflection on the system. This was back in 2005. What obtained was totally suboptimal. There were rat droppings everywhere. The infrastructure was obsolete. And what we did with that room is to convert it into a computer lab, both for the community and for the students and the teachers there. So that was then, and we have replicated that pretty much throughout Antigua and Barbuda. And you are in the gate facility. This is a facility that we have collaborated with another company on. And this is a facility where we're preparing young Antiguans and Barbudans for the future. And for the first time, we are collaborating with Lime at a very deep and fundamental level. Lime was the first company to allocate notebooks to the early childhood education system. This was approximately 5 or 6 years ago. Then we were able to work with them and get teachers, approximately 1,600 of them, to get laptops and to get access to high-speed internet. But my submission to you is that was not enough. And on the HEART, and I'll be very brief here today, has two important components. One is the human entrepreneurship side, the HE, the he part of HEART, and the other part is the art part, the assistive resource technologies. And I have had to be clear about this so that those who don't quite understand this project, I don't blame you, because it has many components. And we have been rolling out different components over the last month or so. Some of them have not even started. So the assistive resources technologies component is very simple. We will assist in a major way a number of institutions: Mount St. John's, Clearview, the Fines Institute, the Boys Training Home, the Comfort Hall. There are about a dozen or so institutions that will benefit from deploying of new hardware, training, software. We're trying to modernize these particular facilities. Mount St. John's has been the first recipient and one of the most important recipients. In fact, as we speak, I believe this Friday a team that Lime will land in Antigua will be installing a video conferencing facility at the Ministries of Tourism, Finance, and at the Mount St. John's Medical Center as the first part of that type of deployment of hardware. Later on this year, in the month of July, Antigua will play host to a Pan-Caribbean Summit on electronic accessibility and examining the ways that people with advantages, people with Downs, people with autism, people who are hearing impaired. We will host a summit here, and we will ensure before that the government of Antigua and Barbuda signs on to the Accessible Technology Charter. This is a charter that commits in black and white what are government's responsibilities to those individuals that have a challenge of one type or the other. On the heart, we will also employ 6 persons to improve awareness in the fields of dyslexia and autism, and we will hire 2 suitable individuals who will be trained in how ICTs can be used to radically empower special needs individuals. A total of 6 persons will actually be hired. So that is, in a very, very simple way and a cryptic way, the art side of heart. But we will also, as you have heard, construct a new facility, Madam Mrs. Pringle, a new facility that will replace the existing school for the blind and the visually impaired. It will replace the existing facility for the school for the deaf. It will also hopefully replace the existing facility that is found on Factory Road, which is the Vocational and Rehabilitation Center. Lime has committed a total of 2.4 million EC dollars to this. So out of the $9 million, 2.4 million will go towards the Heart Center. Government is committing approximately 1.2 million in kind, and we expect to get going on that very shortly. Give it up for Lime, ladies and gentlemen. $9 million in a major public-private people's partnership, which has impact on thousands of people. So the Adele School, the Industrial Workshop for the Blind, the Boys Training School, the St. John's Hospice are some of the institutions that will benefit. And I want to give you an idea of how much we have allocated to this particular part. 1 million EC dollars will go to providing broadband internet and desktops, laptops, etc. So there is local commitment on the part of government and on the part of Lime. There is also what I consider a global perspective by the government. We are sharing goals, sharing responsibilities, and sharing wins. I don't want to tell you about how much progress we have made in technology in Antigua and Barbuda. And maybe I should tell you that we spent between 13 to 18 months talking to Lime. And it's purely coincidental that we have arrived at this juncture very close to the general elections. There's no, sort of surreptitious timing here. I can tell you, in fact, early this year, sometime around mid-January, the talks completely collapsed. And I was very concerned whether the project would come off the ground or not. That is the nature of those types of negotiations. And I'm very pleased that we were able to sign an agreement pursuant to a cabinet decision for HART and for the commercial deployment of HSPA plus technology and 4G LTE later on. So they're spending approximately $35.4 million in new technology, Lime. But what is key about this particular platform is that it will drive 4G LTE to your mobile device. Approximately 35% of Antiguans access the internet from their mobile device exclusively. In other words, they don't access it from anything else. And we want to be able to convert that device, leveraging on the speed, to be a real entrepreneurial tool. Let me spend a few moments talking now about the human entrepreneurship part of HEART, the HE part. We have already begun several of these components. As a matter of fact, we started several of the components before we had an agreement with Lime, because we were not 100% certain we're going to get the agreement signed off with Lime. And these involved leveraging on existing infrastructure and technology that exists in this training facility here, the ICT Cadet Training Facility. We were fortunate enough to have Professor Janice Levy come down and begin major training in digital photography. In fact, Professor Levy has been back. She was here this afternoon, along with another professor from Ithaca College in New York. We continue training cadets in this area. As a matter of fact, you see some of the cameras here. In the last few days, we have actually landed new equipment, and I'm going to tell you in a few moments why all this equipment has been brought in. We also signed a memorandum of understanding with the University of Technology in Jamaica. Professor Errol Morrison and his team were here, and I'm very pleased to tell you that this particular memorandum calls for a number of collaborations, including resource sharing and collaborating on research projects and technology initiatives. I expect that within a few weeks we will send a delegation to the University of Technology. They have a number of training programs that we want to leverage on here in Antigua, especially in the healthcare system. They're called extenders, nurse extenders, pharmacy technicians, etc. But they also are beginning to leverage on technology in a big way, and we were very fortunate to work with them. I want to say that we are also focusing on young girls in business, especially those that are still in secondary school. Research has shown that if you expose them to business concepts, they won't just think business, they will think about a career. We've had a number of empowerment programs here, and we will continue these in the coming months, as well as working with small and micro enterprises and those that have business ideas and want to form a new business, as well as those that have an existing business and want to retool. All of this is captured on the HEART, and we have approximately 0.25 million EC dollars allocated to this. I want to tell you as well, there's been a lot of talk about mobile app development. Well, I won't spend a lot of time on this today. Suffice it to say, we are very interested as a government in continuing the training of Antiguans and Barbudans in this area. We've had a major workshop here last year with the Bright Path Foundation. We are allocating in 2014, 2015, under the HEART project, $0.5 million to mobile app development. And if you are not aware of what I'm referring to, I am sure someone here can take you to the App Store, and you see that there are approximately 800,000 apps on the App Store and probably over 1 million in the Google Play Store. Apps is the next era in technology, and we are undertaking major collaboration with the World Bank. We are on the verge of signing a $10 million US loan agreement with them for the further rapid advancement of the technology sector. So I want to say that in terms of the teachers, on the Technology for Education 2020, all of the teachers then were able, who were desirous of obtaining a laptop and high-speed internet, were allocated one. I am aware that several new teachers have joined the teacher training service. I am pleased to announce that tomorrow, right in this facility, the first 50 new teachers, that is people who were not teachers back then, will receive these Lenovo laptops under the HEART project, and they will also be able to exploit the world of technology in a very meaningful way. So Madam Pringle, I know we have had requests. The bottom line is we did not want to facilitate piecemeal requests. So my undertaking to you and my assurance to you is that under the Human Entrepreneurship and Assistive Resources Technology Project, any teacher who was not a teacher when we had the Education 2020 exercise with Lime a few years ago, once they sign up with the Ministry of Education and we get the requisite information, and we've received most of the names already, we will be allocated the laptops. So tomorrow 50 teachers will receive these laptops. The database is showing approximately, Asha, 225 persons. This will also include some teachers who may have suffered a mishap. For instance, those individuals whose screen got broken, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to say that we have a very tight system here. We're not going to allow teachers to try to beat our system here. We have our databases here, and everyone will be evaluated on merit. So people are not just going to come up and say, well, look, I broke the, we have to be clear here. We have to respect what the government has been doing to empower teachers. But I wanted to make it absolutely clear that those teachers who, since the conclusion of the 2020 project, who have entered the teaching service, we will allocate you one of these Lenovo laptops. 50 of them have arrived, and that deployment will commence tomorrow. I give you the assurance every one of the teachers will receive a Lenovo laptop. Because I hear people talking about, libraries. Let me tell you, the best library in the world is the worldwide internet. And we want teachers to be able to access that in real time. Of course, under the other project, which is the GATE project, every library, every staff room in every school in this country would have received a 4G LTE device. So the teachers themselves in the staff room can have access to the technology. And if there's any school in this country as we speak that you know of and that their staff room has not been equipped with a 4G LTE device, it looks like this, we can deploy this at short notice, okay? So we will work with every staff room, with every school in this country. And I want to say that I have been very fortunate to have a very great team that I work with here. These people work very hard. I will tell you that they learn a lot, but they get pushed. And that is why today we are allocating you an iPad Air. The decision about who gets and who doesn't get in the Ministry of Education is a matter for the Honorable Minister, Dr. Leandro, and her team. But I have a very important announcement to make in a few moments. The iPad Air technology is absolutely revolutionary. It's an addictive device, and I caution those of you about its addiction, because once you get onto it. So I want to say then that if we are talking about the before, the during, and the after, I want to say to you that the future is here. And what do I mean by that? We as a government have taken bold steps to getting the new economy ready. You can only get to this new economy if we look at key areas in the economy. Tourism will, for the foreseeable future, remain the engine of the growth of this economy. And if you have any doubts about that, I will tell you that for the foreseeable future, tourism will be king, tourism will be queen, tourism will be the monarch. And we have to understand the impact of tourism on this economy. But parallel to tourism, and almost in an additive way, we as a government have been very strategic about what we want to do in terms of getting the aspects of the economy ready. And technology is not only a great enabler, it has been demonstrated to be a powerful transformative tool. As a matter of fact, just earlier this week, the Inter-American Development Bank released a report indicating that the Latin American and Caribbean region is one of the most disadvantaged areas when it comes to broadband internet. Now, Antigua is a member of the Caribbean Development Bank, and we don't benefit from IADB assistance directly because we are a signatory to the Caribbean Development Bank. But I want to say to you that that's not going to happen to Antigua and Barbuda. It is not happening to us. Internet penetration is at 88%, and in the coming months, this is going to be the main area of our focus. I mentioned during the media briefing that Lime had for the launch of their 4G HSPA Plus network that we have had ongoing discussions with Lime about deploying technology in the transportation sector. That is to say, We want to modernize the public transport system here. And there are different components to that. And what I want to say is that we have a plan that we feel will totally revolutionize how people move in this country, especially if they're using the public transportation system. The CCTV project has been commissioned by the Honorable Dr. Court and his team at the Ministry of National Security in collaboration with us here at the Ministry of Telecommunications. And we, as a government, plan to expand on that. We will exploit and leverage on every kind of technology that will help us to keep crime down. And the installation of the first phase of the cameras there has been going very well. And of course, we have partnered with another telecoms company on that. I want to say as well that we will commission shortly a world-class cutting-edge digital laboratory and digital studio. Equipment has already begun to arrive. Some of that you see here, the Macs, the MacBook Pros. This cutting-edge digital laboratory and digital studio will be all Macs, everything Mac. Will focus on web design, digital radio and television production. Digital recording facility will also be included. We will provide exclusive training in the facility. 2,500 persons will be trained on an annual basis, and we will solidify our position as the content creation capital of the Caribbean. We are no longer going to be net consumers of what the internet has to offer. So when it comes to music, fine arts, you name it, all of this technology here, from the video cameras to the Rebel cameras that you see here, to the MacBook Pros, to the iMacs. We just brought in 400,000 EC dollars worth of equipment in the last few days. And this is as a result of our collaboration with friendly governments. And we will proceed to prepare Generation Next to compete online for this world that is offering a lot of jobs online. And that is not a cliched term. Many of these young people have the opportunity to press on to the next level. So we will become the digital capital of the Caribbean, and that is not a cliched term. We will have a studio that will be rivaled by every country in the Caribbean. We've had visits from the government of Papua New Guinea, the government of St. Vincent was here recently, the government of Grenada was here recently, the Tobago House of Assembly was here recently, and last week I received a phone call from my good friend Dr. Jimmy Fletcher, who is the Minister of ICT in St. Lucia, and he's told me he wants to bring a team here to study what we're doing in the gate training facility. And he says, look, I know it's election time. I said to my colleague, you're welcome at any time, and we expect a delegation from the government of St. Lucia to visit us here shortly. So we are doing something here that other people are very interested in. I also want to say that our negotiations with friendly governments in leveraging on ICTs continue. So with Gate and Heart, I say to you, the future is here. And in the new economy, there will be a lot of focus on entrepreneurship, innovation, and job creation. So in the transportation sector, when we begin to leverage on the technology, we expect 50 new jobs to be created. These are meaningful and well-paying jobs. When we commission the cutting-edge digital laboratory and digital studio, we will hire approximately 25 persons and train over a 12-month period, 2,500 persons. And I want to say as well then that this government has had discussions with friendly governments. There is an international space agency that has been speaking to us, looking at putting a laboratory here, a space laboratory in Antigua. And those discussions continue because this is an area that is very cutting edge, and there are potentials for job creation in a specialized niche area. And depending on how fast we can accelerate the discussions, I expect there to be some movement in this area very shortly, where Antigua and Barbuda would have been chosen as a country for a mini laboratory for one of the leading space agencies. I also want to say that when the government would have sat with Lime and said, look, we want to deploy iPad technology and high-speed internet to civil servants and to public servants, we are very mindful of the fact that there are more than 1,500 persons. We are very mindful of that. So we can't just talk about connectivity and we can't just talk about the devices. We have to talk as if we really are serious and that we have a plan. And this government does have a plan. And I want to say to you today that every student, Madam Director of Education, I want you to listen to me closely. Every student in this country, from grade 1 up, who has not been allocated a device and wishes to be allocated a device, we are going to provide a device. Every public servant who would not have qualified under this program will qualify under the program that will come up shortly. This is to include teachers and so on at Abyss and students at Abyss and Abbott, new students at the Antigua State College, people that work in statutory bodies, etc., etc. We have been in discussions with a friendly government for over 2 years, and I'm very pleased to tell you that we are very close to signing on to acquiring 22,000 computers. 22,000 computers for every student and everybody that works for government as part of our digital agenda, as part of our thrust to move forward. And I also want to use this forum today, and I want to say to you, none of this was planned. I asked my team to reposition everybody into this room. That's why we ran a bit late, and I apologize about that. Because I happen to be in discussions today, and this is why I am very confident that we can provide the 22,000 computers very shortly. And this has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that we're in election season. We've been deploying hardware in this country for the last 10 years. We have a solid plan, and we have great friendly countries that are collaborating with us. And I want to be able, before I make any further announcements, to sit down and talk to the local telecoms companies about the connectivity part. Because I will not allocate technology if the technology cannot access the super information highway. So I'm putting Lime, Digicel, and ACT on notice that I plan to speak with you very shortly about how we can connect these 22,000 computers to the internet. I also want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that this country is poised for major growth in this sector. In the last 10 years, there has been in excess of $350 million in investment in the sector. That's not a small investment for a small island with 100,000 people. The census shows there's about 80,000 people that live here. And it is since the census has come out that we have been able, and I have been able to look at certain numbers. So no community will be digitally disadvantaged. No home. Every home in this country will receive a device. By that I mean, if you know we have a student that lives in the village of Piers, and that student has had a device, well, we know that that device can go home and there can be connectivity. So, in the next few months, ladies and gentlemen, we will announce something fairly substantial, and I want to tell you what it is right now. In addition to the 22,000 computers that we're likely to bring in, we want fiber. We want fiber optic cable into your home and my home, into your school and every private school. Every home, every business, every building must get a piece of fiber, because that is the future. So that simple coaxial cable, which almost looks like this cable right here, as thin as this looks, will provide you with cable television, will provide you with high-speed internet, super high-speed internet, will provide you with local telephony, will provide you with a slew of services that are unique to you in your setting, whether you're at home or you're in the business environment, whether you're in your government office or you're at Abyss. So we are leveraging on what exists. Antigua is the only country that will have deployed by this September 2 4G LTE networks, and we will pursue fiber to every home and every business and every building, because that connectivity, coupled with the explosion in wireless technologies, will position Antigua and Barbuda for the real new economy. I had the privilege of going to a very good school. I also had the privilege of getting a tertiary education, and we must, as a society, aim to have 1 out of every 3 students, 1 out of every 3 individuals get access to tertiary education. So we will continue our collaborations under the Prime Minister's Scholarship Program. We will continue to put resources into the Antigua State College, and we will continue to do whatever it takes to prepare Antigua and Barbuda for the new economy. So congratulations to you for your allocation of your iPad today. The actual allocation exercise should last no more than 15 to 20 minutes. The team here at the Ministry of Telecoms remains available to answer any questions to you. You have 250 megs of capacity on your iPad. When the LTE platform is lit, it will be increased. Wherever possible, try to use Wi-Fi. You've been a great audience. I thank you for your patience, and God bless you. Thank you kindly.